Okay, so uh, in meditation, we basically try to be an observer and observe the thoughts, try not to think about sansar and all those things, but sansar has penetrated within our minds. And we never really pay attention to the whole details of what's going on, really. We always think that the objects are outside and we are seeing them. It's not as simple as that. If somebody is unconscious, he won't be able to see the objects because the consciousness makes these objects alive. So it's like a donation of the awareness, donation of the consciousness, so that we can see, interpret, and understand the world. Now, whether the objects are going to stay outside or not, there is no way to know. Because unless you perceive it with your awareness, objects do not exist. And in fact, there have been tremendous work on this in scientific fields, and some of the answers, even the science has not been able to figure it out. And one of them is called Young's experiment. And it was very fascinating that they created a tiny hole through which they bombarded the photons. Now, photons are particles. So when they threw it through an aperture, it spread like a wave. But the same thing was not the case when they had a vertical slit. It went out through the vertical slit and created an image of the vertical slit on the screen that was catching behind. So it's almost like if you pass a water through a small hole, it expands and it creates the waves. So these photons, which is basically light, when there is a tiny aperture, it behaves like water, like a wave, like an energy, because waves have energies. The same way the energy, when they have waves, you can tell it's working as energy, means it's a spirit, it's not material. But the same light, when it is subjected to a vertical slit, it passes through and it creates a vertical slit, just like you bombard the bullets through a vertical slit and it's recorded, just like bullets are particles. So the light has a dual nature. It can be a particle and it also can be a spirit, energy. So at a very, very subtle level, at the quantum level, it can be both. So that's where the connection takes place between the objects and the subject, which is the energy, which is non-visible, unmanifest. So at that level, it can be both. And that always puzzled. But now quantum physics has gone beyond, no question about it. It is what it is. That's the way it is. In fact, the name quanta means packets of energy, not packets of stone, not packets of rice, not packets of wheat, nothing like that. Packets of energy. How can an energy form a packet? But it is what it is. That's what quantum means. And the whole quantum physics is based on that. So yes, it's behaving like a particle, but at the same time, it's energy. So that really is enigmatic. So the reason I'm bringing it up is in this Young's experiment, the weird thing was that if you do not be present at the time of the experiment, and the experiment is being recorded without your presence, with just the instruments, then the light, the photons will behave like waves. energy. But as soon as a scientist comes near the experiment and starts observing, the light turns from the waves to the particles, and it creates the vertical slit. So question is, why does it do that? And how does it know that the scientist is observing it? So the observation itself makes the photons, or whatever is the wave, or makes it conscious. So it immediately notices the presence of awareness. So from spiritual point of view, it's so beautiful that the key thing, that even the objects that we call objects in a very subtle way, they are nothing but energy. So if the energy has converted into, say, so-called particles and solid material objects and all that, and if the consciousness is watching it and recreating its image within our mind, chitta, so it's consciousness playing with the consciousness, as simple as that. So if that is the case, then the objects that we see, meaning my body, your body, all the other material objects, don't mean anything. So objects don't have that capacity, but we do have evolved mind that we can study our own awareness. We can be aware of the awareness, and we can dissociate from the objects. So objects actually fall in the lap of the consciousness. So objects are there only because of the consciousness. Without consciousness, objects cannot exist. As we say, aap mua, fir lut gayi dunya. The whole sansar exists as long as you're alive. Alive with what? The life force. So the meditation is the ultimate game changer, where we travel into the belly of the awareness and we realize that the objects do disappear because they exist only because of the awareness. When we are not aware of them, they don't exist. So that is the whole purpose of meditation, that objects that we think they exist, even if, say, for one argument's sake, say, okay, E equal to mc square, I'm not going to listen to it. But the objects exist in our mind. We drink Heineken, but the image and the experience of drinking the Heineken, everything gets recorded in our chitta. Chitta is not just a camera that it takes a picture. No, it's a lot more than that. It takes the picture in 3D. It takes the picture in 4D, in the dimension of the time itself, because you know the first sip of Heineken, and then you know the last sip of Heineken, which you just finished just because you paid for it or whatever. So the time frame also gets recorded in chitta, and chitta is so much powerful, keeps on recording. But we never pay attention to that. Each frame required the need for awareness. So the question comes in, we may not even do meditation, but let's just talk. So the thing is that if each frame is separated from each other, and if the awareness is continuously aware of them, is awareness divided or awareness continuous? That's the question. The question that the scientists cannot answer is, and I was watching that documentary on the infinity, they said that, no, there is no continuity. They just cannot get the concept of awareness by itself. And that's where the science fumbles, because science is studying the whole thing as an object, not even realizing that the experiments, the results of the experiments, even get messed up just by being them there, and they know that. So there's a lot of like a rigmarole, and science has reached to a deadline. I'm sorry to say, even though I'm a science student. But the thing is that the whole experiment is never reversed. That, okay, if scientist is the subject and is doing an experiment, the experiment is an object, but who is inside the scientist? Who is the scientist? How do you study the scientist? Nobody is studying the scientist himself. And that's where the spirituality comes in. So the continuity of the awareness is not perceivable easily. And because it keeps on getting, the attention keeps on getting diverted to all these material things which are moving, and material things are finite. So even if you keep looking at one spot, it keeps on changing. Changes keep on happening. But the mind never has the chance to focus on one step because samsara is moving. When there is so much motion, the objects after objects after objects keep on coming. And our experience with each and every objects also keeps on changing. So, and they change so rapidly, so we cannot even appreciate that they are changing. But these are tiny frames, very, very split-second frames are being recorded on the awareness. But awareness is the one that binds us all, binds them all, because that is the thing which is common to every single. I always say, you remember 5-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old. You remember all these all these memories that came in your life, but the awareness was always constantly present. So awareness is present in every single object and is present in every single second. And the second is too gross for us to even realize. Even if we break it down to micro milliseconds, still the instruments will be able to go to a certain point beyond which it will not be able to go. And then the tables turn and the subject takes over. If you meditate, that's the thing. So if you don't meditate, you're going to keep getting fumbled. So the object is a continuity. And the subject, the awareness is a continuity. Objects are discontinued, one after another. They're countable. So how does this really science matter? The science of spirituality. How does it really matter? That in life, whatever we do it which is countable. How much money you have, how many dollars you have, how many pockets you have, how many people you know, how many friends you have, how many parents you have, how many cars you have. Everything is countable. So that you can realize that they are all objects. And whatever are countable, they are also perishable. Parents go, cars go, money goes. So everything that is countable is perishable. So the one that is aware of all these things is not perishable because it never depended on the objects. Objects kept on changing. Awareness did not change. So, and that also, so by meditation, we're trying to reach to the imperishable, the amritva. Objects have mrityu dharma. The subject is param dharma, sanatan dharma, is permanent. So that's one advantage. The second advantage is also it gives us the message that what is really important. Counting pennies is important, or counting love, friendship, karuna, compassion is important. So that's where the whole crux changes from the finite to the infinite. Everybody needs money, no question about it, but how much important it is. That's what the bottom line is. So how many friends you have versus how many quality time you have with the friends. How many years did you live versus how much joy? Because joy is infinite. You cannot define how much joy did you have. I had 10 grams of joy or 15 grams of joy. Joy is a joy. And that's why unconditional love, because the love has been so outdated that we call, oh, I love Haagen-Dazs. Whenever the love gets focused, realize that it's focusing on an object or a person or a situation. And when it is focusing, it's becoming limited. So again, our philosophy of meditation gets broken. So meditation is all about reaching to the infinite state where you can love someone infinite, just unconditional, because conditions divide. Unconditionality doesn't divide. Whatever you do, I love you, no matter what. And of course, You can start with the spouse, your children, your friends, and then expand for the whole world. As you keep going deeper and deeper, you're going from the finite to the infinity. And why is this important? Because at the finite level, whoever you love, you're going to have to protect, because you know someday it can disappear. A person can disappear, object can disappear, situation can disappear, and they do disappear. So you're always in a continuous state of fear, stress, anxiety, as if you're almost ready for some bad news. Oh, I have a parrot. Oh, I walk in. Could it be dead? Oh, then what am I going to do? My dog can die. Yes, it can die. My parents getting old. I can lose them. There's a continuous state of fear in the finite life, and everybody's living a finite life. The meditation is only when you start witnessing the finite, and when you witness the finite, you experience the infinity. At the infinity level, a gain is not a gain, because at infinite, how can you have a gain? You already at the infinity. So gain is not a gain. And the same thing, loss is not loss either. Because when you have infinite, how does it matter whether finite stays or finite goes? It's a cycle that it's following: birth, growth, decay, and death. Not just the alive people, even the non-alive things. Objects also have the same cycle, whether it's a mountain or a grain of sand. It's always in a flux. So when you realize it, the sudden separation happens from an infinite to the finite, from the permanence to the impermanence. And you accept it as it is. That doesn't mean you become callous and you don't care if somebody dies and all that. But in the society, you may have to act, and it's fine, no problem. But deep inside, you know that everything is following the laws of the nature. So the infinity, experience of the infinity, the infinite, brings you total peace. And you live the same life like you were living before. But now you have gained the knowledge of the self, the knowledge of Atma, the knowledge of a homogeneous state which cannot be divided. And that only seekers can give you the answer. Scientists cannot. So no matter how much the science will go further up, and there has been some research going on, and the people have put down the theory that is universe conscious. Now they're going to have a lot of work to do, and I hope they reach at some point. But our Rishi Munis, they knew it thousands of years, that consciousness, it's not that the universe is conscious. Consciousness is conscious. When the consciousness is conscious, which is infinite, what is one universe? Infinite universes. Krishna says, I am the owner of crores of universes. So it's the beauty of spirituality. It's so amazing that every step of the way, things just keep opening up, takes you to the eternity. All right, so much for today. Sorry I got sidetracked, but that was the fun part.